Was this really just a simple mistake, or is something much deeper going on here? We've all seen Sarah Platt in the line of fire before, but is she truly a cold-blooded killer, or is she the victim of a plot so twisted that even a detective like Kit Green can't see the truth? I want you to think about that for a second because the cobbles have never felt this cold. On a rain-slicked night back in April, Theo Silverton met his end at the bottom of a scaffolding ring, and the person standing at the top with a metal pole in her hand was none other than Sarah Platt. But here's the thing, did we actually see what we think we saw? Sarah didn't go out that night looking for blood. She went out looking for Todd. She found a monster instead. Theo was fueled by intoxicants and a dark desire to torment her. He baited her with the most painful memory a mother can carry, the loss of her son, Billy, all those years ago. In my opinion, Sarah didn't strike a man that night. She struck a ghost that had been haunting her since 2004. It wasn't a premeditated murder. It was a visceral, trauma-informed reaction to a threat that felt all too real in the moment. But why did she call Gary Windass instead of 999? That's the question that changes everything. The answer lies in her DNA. For a Platt, the police aren't usually the solution. They're the complication. Sarah's first instinct is always to circle the wagons. She called Gary because Gary is the cleaner of Weatherfield. He's the man who knows how to make the uncomfortable parts of life disappear. She wasn't just hiding a body. She was trying to preserve the fragile illusion of her normal life with her boyfriend, Kit. Inside, Sarah has to be absolutely disintegrated. Can you imagine the weight of that? Imagine dating a police officer while carrying the weight of a corpse on your conscience. She feels a suffocating level of guilt, and it's not even necessarily for Theo's death. Let's be honest, the guy was a predator. The real guilt comes from the collateral damage. Watching Summer Spellman languish in prison for a crime Sarah actually committed is a special kind of hell. Sarah's heart is breaking for the people she loves, yet her survival instinct is keeping her mouth shut. It's this tragic tug-of-war between her morality and her freedom. I see this as a massive echo of the Callum Logan situation. Years ago, Sarah watched Kylie kill Callum to save her, and they buried him under the floorboards. Now, the roles have shifted. Sarah is the one with the weapon. This isn't just a new storyline. It's a cycle of violence that Sarah can't seem to escape. She's like the final girl in a horror movie that never ends, and the scaffolding was just another stage for her survivalist drama. I'm going to be controversial here. I don't think Sarah is actually a murderer. Does she have blood on her hands? Yes. But the legal definition of murder requires intent, and Sarah was pushed to the edge. However, I absolutely disagree with her decision to let Summer take the fall. That is where she crosses the line from a victim of circumstance to a villain of convenience. You can't build a happy life with Kit on the ruins of a young girl's future. Psychologically, Sarah is likely experiencing a resurgence of the postpartum psychosis she suffered after Harry was born. When she stares into space, she isn't just guilty. She is fragmented. Her mind is trying to protect her from the reality that she took a life. By calling Gary, she offloaded the adult responsibility to a protector figure, reverting to a state of childlike helplessness to avoid the weight of her actions. The tension reached a breaking point at that awkward dinner party. While Kit was serving drinks, Sarah was seeing ghosts. When she cut her hand on that broken glass, it wasn't just a physical wound. It was the psychological dam bursting. The blood on the table was a direct mirror to the blood on the scaffolding. Let's talk about the Kit factor for a minute. Kit Green is a detective, yet he seems blind to the killer in his own kitchen. Or is he? Some fans have pointed out a massive clue. When Gary asked for a bottle opener, Kit replied, "It's a twist." In the world of soap writing, nothing is accidental. Was Kit talking about the beer, or was he winking at the audience? If Kit knows, he isn't just a boyfriend. He's an accomplice in waiting. The fallout with Todd was the final nail in the coffin for Sarah's sanity. Todd is the only person who truly understands the depth of the trauma Theo caused. For him to look her in the eye and say their friendship is dead, it has to hurt Sarah more than any prison sentence could. She lost her moral compass when she lost Todd's respect. He didn't turn her in because he loves her, but he can't look at her because he fears her. Now, here is a unique angle. Is Sarah being framed by her own memory? There's a fascinating theory that Sarah might actually be innocent of the final blow. She hit him, yes. He fell, yes. But did he die then? We know Gary checked the body, but Gary isn't a doctor. If someone else came along and finished the job while Sarah was panicking at home, she's carrying guilt for a murder she didn't actually finish. That would be the ultimate miracle to save her character. I think the writers might be setting up a redemption arc that hinges on Lily Platt. If that little girl saw something from the shadows, something Sarah didn't see, it changes everything. If Lily saw a second figure on that scaffolding, Sarah goes from killer back to victim in an instant. I really hope this is the case because the show needs Sarah as a hero, not a prisoner. The guilt-induced confession to Todd was a classic psychological cry for help. Sarah wanted to be caught. She went to the Rovers, drank heavily, and acted out because the secret was a physical weight. She chose Todd because he represents her past, a time before the murders, before the darkness. She was trying to find her way back to the girl she was, but can you ever really go home again when your hands are stained? Let's look at some predictions for the future impact of all this. First, there's the Kit betrayal. Kit is going to find that engagement ring again, but instead of a proposal, it's going to be an interrogation. When the detective side of him finally overrides the boyfriend side, the explosion will be nuclear. I predict Kit will find evidence, maybe Sarah's DNA on the pole, and he'll have to decide if he's a cop or a Platt. Then there's the second killer reveal. The "it's a twist" line isn't a throwaway. I predict we will see another flashback. Sarah leaves, Theo is groaning on the floor, and a shadowy figure steps out of the darkness. Who had the most to gain? Jody? Kit? Or maybe even a vengeful Gary who wanted to make sure Theo could never hurt Sarah again. If someone else finished him off, Sarah's innocence is restored, even if her morality is still a mess. Don't forget the Jody alibi theory. Sarah is a survivor. She might realize that Jody attacked her that same night, which gives her a perfect loss of consciousness alibi. I predict a dark deal. Sarah keeps quiet about Jody's secrets, and Jody swears Sarah was out cold during the time of Theo's death. It's dirty, it's underhanded, and it's exactly what a Platt would do to stay out of prison. Do you think Sarah is actually the one who delivered the fatal blow, or is there a hidden killer yet to be revealed? And if you were Todd, could you ever forgive Sarah for letting Summer go to prison for a crime she didn't commit? We have to ask ourselves, can someone truly be proven innocent when they've already confessed? You see it in her eyes every time she looks at Kit. It's the look of a woman who is just waiting for the handcuffs to click. But the miracle we're talking about today isn't just a legal loophole. It's a story reset that could change everything. Was the scaffolding incident a murder, or just a tragic accident that someone else turned into a crime? Let's break down the evidence that the police, and even Sarah herself, might have missed. To understand why Sarah reacted the way she did, you have to look at her family history. This isn't their first rodeo with a dead body. From Richard Hillman's canal dive to Callum Logan's stint under the floorboards, Sarah has been conditioned to believe that life is just a series of traumas you have to bury. She is in a state of perpetual survival. When Theo threatened her, he wasn't just a man. He was every threat she's ever faced. In my opinion, her decision to strike him was a manifestation of years of repressed fear. She didn't feel like she had a choice in her mind, but the choice she made afterwards, to call Gary, is what defines her current nightmare. Why Gary? Let's be real. Gary is the man who killed Rick Nailon. He's lived in the shadows for years. Sarah calling him is a return to a safe, but toxic dynamic. She knows Gary will prioritize her safety over the law. But by calling him, she effectively gave up her right to be a victim. She entered into a pact of silence that turns a self-defense act into a criminal conspiracy. Gary's involvement is a double-edged sword. He saved her from immediate arrest, but he's shackled her to a secret that is eating her alive. And then there's the emotional toll of Summer's sacrifice. We cannot talk about Sarah's innocence without talking about the girl currently sitting in a cell. Summer Spellman. The emotional weight of this is staggering. Sarah has watched Summer grow up. She knows the girl's potential. To see that potential extinguished because Sarah was too afraid to tell the truth? That is the ultimate betrayal. My interpretation is that Sarah's drinking and erratic behavior in the Rovers isn't just guilt. It's soul-crushing self-loathing. She sees Summer as the version of herself that could have been, innocent and untainted, and she's effectively murdered that innocence to save her own skin. Let's go back to that dinner party again. Kit Green, the detective boyfriend, says, "It's a twist." Now, some might say it's just a line about a bottle opener. But in a show where every word matters, that is a message to us. If Sarah is miraculously proven innocent, Kit will be the one who makes it happen. Is it possible Kit already knows? Is he playing a long game to protect her? If Kit manipulates the evidence to show that Theo was actually killed by someone else, is Sarah truly innocent? Or is she just protected? This is a unique angle. Kit might become the new Gary Windass, but with a badge. Tina O'Brien herself said that if Sarah had called the police immediately, she would have been in a much better position. I completely agree with her. If you act in self-defense and call it in, you're a survivor. If you act in self-defense and then hide the body, you're a criminal. The miracle Sarah needs isn't a legal defense. She needs a physical piece of evidence that proves she didn't actually kill him. And that brings us back to the theory that someone else finished him off. Let's look at the physics of the fall. Sarah hits him, and he falls. But Theo was a big man. Was a single blow from a metal pole enough to kill him instantly? Or did he hit the ground, still breathing, only for a second person to find him? We know the Cobbles were busy that night. Carla and Lisa's wedding was happening. There were plenty of people with motives. If we find out that Theo was alive when Sarah left him, her entire world shifts. She's no longer a killer. She's just a woman who got into a fight. That is the miracle the fans are waiting for. The way the show used a flashback triggered by broken glass is a classic depiction of PTSD. Sarah's brain had literally walled off the memory of the killing to allow her to function. When that wall crumbled, so did her identity as a good person. Psychologically, Sarah is now mourning the death of her own self-image. She can no longer pretend she is the girl next door. She is a woman who can swing a lead pipe with lethal force. That realization is more damaging than any prison cell could ever be. And then we have Todd's reaction. It was the most honest moment of the entire storyline. He didn't give her a hug and say it would be okay. He told her she was dead to him. Why? Because Todd has spent years trying to move past his own dark history. He saw in Sarah the very thing he's been trying to escape: deception, violence, and the destruction of others for self-preservation. When Todd walks away, he's taking the last piece of the old Sarah with him. The conflict now is whether Sarah can live in a world where the people who know her best can't stand the sight of her. Lily Platt is the big wild card here. Children in soaps are often the keepers of secrets. If Lily was wandering the street, upset about Jody, she might have seen the whole thing. But what if she saw more? What if she saw someone else approach the body after Sarah and Gary left? I predict Lily will start drawing disturbing pictures or making comments that only Sarah understands. This tension will build until Lily finally tells a secret that either sinks Sarah or saves her. We also have to remember the parallels with Callum Logan. Kylie killed Callum to save Sarah. Now Sarah has, seemingly, killed Theo to save herself, or maybe she thought she was saving Todd. The emotional insight here is that Sarah has never really processed Callum's death. She went through psychosis and a psychiatric unit, but did she ever truly face the reality of what happened in that annex? Theo's death is a reenactment of her greatest trauma. It's a psychological loop that won't break until the truth is fully out in the light. Honestly, does the show need another killer? We've had Stephen Reed, we've had Harvey Gaskell, and we've had Gary's dark turn. If Sarah becomes a permanent killer, the show loses its heart. That's why I believe the miracle innocence plot is coming. The writers need to keep the Platts relatable. They can be messy and they can be liars, but they can't be murderers. I predict the miracle will be a combination of forensic evidence and a confession from the actual person who delivered the final blow. Sarah spends her days serving coffee and smiling, but that mask is becoming heavy. The gap between her public life and her private guilt is a recipe for a total mental breakdown. I believe we're going to see Sarah revisit the psychiatric storylines. This isn't just about crime and punishment. It's about a woman's mind fracturing under the weight of a secret she was never meant to keep. The escalation of the relationship with Kit is a ticking time bomb. Every time he kisses her, he's kissing a woman who might have murdered the man he's investigating. The tension here is delicious. I can see a scene where Kit is explaining his latest lead in the case, and Sarah has to sit there and nod while her heart is pounding in her ears. The psychological control Kit has over her, even if he doesn't know it, is fascinating. He is her protector and her potential executioner all at once. Maybe the twist Kit mentioned isn't about the case at all. Maybe the twist is that the audience is being led to believe one thing, while the truth is right in front of us. Was Theo really as abusive as we thought, or was he a man who was also falling apart? If Theo's death was an accident caused by his own intoxication, and Sarah's blow didn't actually kill him, then Sarah is innocent of murder, but guilty of a massive cover-up. That's the gray area where the show lives. Sarah Platt has been on our screens since 1987. We've seen her through teenage pregnancy, internet grooming, and the death of her son. She is a legacy character. The fans will forgive her for a lot, but they won't forgive her for what's happening to Summer. If the show wants to save Sarah, they have to prove her innocence fast. They have to show that her strike wasn't the end of the story. Only then can she truly find peace. Let's really look at those frames of the flashback one more time. Sarah is terrified. Theo is looming. He's taller, stronger, and he's threatening her with the very thing that broke her heart decades ago. When she picks up that pole, it's not an offensive move, it's defensive. But look at the angle of the strike. Sarah is short. Theo is coming toward her. The blow hits his head, and he stumbles back. In most legal cases, this is clear self-defense. But Sarah's fear of the police, instilled by years of watching her family get arrested, paralyzes her. Calling Gary was her first mistake, but it was also her most Platt mistake. She didn't want justice. She wanted safety. Psychologically, Sarah views the law as something that happens to other people or something that punishes her family unfairly. By bringing Gary into the fold, she turned a tragic accident into a criminal enterprise. The tragedy is that if she had just stayed with the body and waited for the police, her innocence would have been clear from the start. And her guilt isn't just about Theo. It's about her children, Bethany and Harry. She's terrified that if she goes to prison, she'll be repeating the cycle of her own mother, Gail, who has faced her own share of police interviews. She doesn't want her children to be the kids of a killer. This emotional desperation is what's fueling her silence. She is willing to let Summer suffer because she can't bear the thought of Harry growing up without a mother. Is it selfish? Yes. Is it human? Absolutely. Gary Windass is a fascinating character in this whole mess. He's basically the fixer for the Platt family. Why does he do it? Is it lingering love for Sarah? Or is it a way to atone for his own sins? Gary taking the lead on the cover-up is his way of staying relevant in Sarah's life. He's creating a bond of shared trauma that Kit can never touch. In a way, Gary is more of a threat to Sarah's future than the police are, because he will always have this over her. The fact that Kit was planning to propose with a ring Sarah found is the height of soap opera irony. She found a symbol of forever, while she was hiding a symbol of the end. I think that ring is a shackle. If she accepts, she's marrying the man who could put her away. If she refuses, she raises suspicion. She is trapped in a romantic prison of her own making. Notice how Sarah talks about the incident in the third person when she confesses to Todd. She says, "I pushed him," but she says it like she's describing a movie she watched. This is dissociation. Her brain is trying to separate Sarah the barmaid from Sarah the killer. If she doesn't find a way to bring those two parts of herself together, she's headed for another full-blown mental break. The miracle she needs isn't just a legal one. It's psychological. She needs to forgive herself before the world can. If Lily Platt saw the whole thing, why hasn't she spoken up yet? Children process trauma differently. Maybe she didn't realize what she saw was a death. Maybe she thought it was just another loud Platt argument. But as the news of Theo's death spreads, Lily's silence is going to become a weapon. I interpret this as the writers giving themselves an out. Lily is the one who can say, But Mommy, who is the man who touched